This episode of Pots and Trowels is brought to you with the support of Mr Fothergill Seeds and Cobra Garden. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Today we're going to be in the polytunnel planting out tomato plants and in the borders supporting perennials. Well, we're getting to the time when we can start thinking about planting tomatoes out, not outside though. If you're going to grow them in containers on a patio or somewhere, it's still too cold. You need to wait well into May until the danger of frost gone. But if you've got a little greenhouse or a polytunnel or a conservatory, you can grow them in there without any heat. That should give them enough protection even on cool nights. Various ways that you can grow them. Traditionally it would be to plant them in the soil, which is the way I do a few of them. I think it's a good way to do it because the roots can get down there. It holds the moisture more so they don't dry out. But if you grow them that way year after year, you can gradually start to develop some root diseases that causes the plants to wilt. It's called verticillium wilt. So you have to rest the soil. So if that's been a problem for you, the alternative is to grow them either in grow bags or self-watering pots or just big plant pots full of compost. And you can get some really, really good results. I do a bit of both, to be fair. It's just nice to have that comparison. And it also frees up other soil in the polytunnel so I can grow salads and other crops in here. So we've got two types here, a mixture of different varieties, and this is the perfect stage to plant them out. What you want are fairly stocky plants if possible. Don't worry if they've got a little bit taller because they've not had the light. You can always plant them just a little bit deeper. But the ideal stage is like this, where they're just starting to show that first flower truss there in the top of the growth. And when they're at that point, they're perfect for planting out. So the ones that are in this tray, and these are the ones we sowed from seed sort of end of February time. And these have made lovely plants. These are in fibre pots and the roots are starting to come through on here already. So we don't take these pots out. So it's literally plant the whole thing. Little tip if you're using fibre pots of any sort is to give them a good drink first so the fibre pot is moist. If you plant them when they're dry, they don't absorb the moisture and the roots struggle a little bit to get out. And it's just a case, the soil's been forked over, plenty of compost in there to get it nice and rich, a nice hole. And I'm going to plant this to that level there, but as I say, if your plants are a little bit taller, just plant them 2 or 3 inches deeper and they'll root from the stems into there, backfill with the compost, give it a firm, and then we would give that a drink of water and that will be absolutely fine. The alternative is to grow them in pots or containers of some sort. And I am going to use some self-watering pots, which we'll look at a later date. But these are just old shrub pots that you buy shrubs and trees in from garden centres. They're 10 litres, about the size of a 2-gallon bucket. And these are perfect for it, just filled with a multi-purpose compost. And then what I'm going to do is plant this one. Now, these are grown in plastic pots. I did various ways. So just pop the label out, knock that out of the pot. We can see that these have got a really lovely white healthy root system, so these are going to grow away really quickly. So it's just a case of making the hole, lowering that into there and backfilling with some compost, lightly firm, not too much. Now you'll notice that I haven't filled my pot up to the top, and I've done that for a reason. As this grows in the summer and it's probably 3 or 4 feet tall and producing fruit, the lower leaves eventually go yellow and we take them off, and at that point I will add some fresh compost which will encourage more roots and feed the plant and just make for a stronger overall plant. And the other thing that I do is I stand them in these saucers if they're in pots, because they can tend to dry out quite quickly on hot days. So this just means I can add a bit of water in there in the morning. It's like a reservoir and the plants will suck it up. So they'll get established. Remember to put your labels in so you know exactly what they are if you're growing several types. And what we need to do now is just keep these moist, not too wet. If it's cool at night and there is a late frost forecast, hopefully your cold greenhouse or polytunnel will keep them protected. But it's always worth having a bit of fleece handy or some old sheets of newspaper just to cover them over, just for that little bit of insulation, and they'll soon get growing. And you know, look forward to those fantastic juicy tomatoes later on in the summer. If grow herbaceous perennials in the border, you'll know that if you don't support them or stake them when they're fairly young, they can just sort of flop all over the place, and it's hard then to gather them together. So there are various ways you can do it. There are lots of different plant supports that you can buy from garden centres or buy them online. Plastic ones, some that clip together, or these sort of nice steel ones that you just push down over the clump of perennials as they're growing, and they just give it support and hold them nicely together. Or very simply, if you've kept some prunings from the garden, and I always do, I use them for pea sticks in the garden and around the borders, just push some lengths of these twiggy branches down in amongst these new shoots as they grow, and again it just holds them, and by the time these have reached their ultimate height of about 2'6", you won't see any of this twiggy growth, so they've got that sort of network of branches in there. Or another very simple way of doing it, if you've got a clump, just pushing 4 stakes around it and then loop some string around it, and as they grow through the middle, again they're contained by the lovely soft twine. And what I've done with this peony, this is one of the herbaceous ones that dies down in the winter. It's making lovely new growth now. In fact, it's just starting to form its little flower buds there, but these in a month's time will be great big lovely flower heads. Quite floppy, and they do fall over. So I've created a very natural framework of branches here. This is dogwood that I pruned out the garden and saved, and I've just bent them over and created this framework that looks quite structural and rustic in the garden, but gives, more importantly, support to the plant. And if you can still get hold of some flexible stems from your garden, even if they're in leaf now, don't worry, you can pluck the leaves off them, but you need 6, and all you do is you push them evenly in the soil around the clump that you want to support, and then you take the opposite ones and you bend them over, and because they're supple like that, you can hold them into place with some string and then trim off any little bits that you like, and then you do that with the other 2 pairs, which creates this lovely dome frame on the top. And then to finish it off, what I've done is, again with some more of the flexible stems, is just weave a few in like a basket weave around there. That just gives it a bit of rigidity and a little bit more ornamental, and it holds everything in place. So it not only looks nice in the garden, it's doing a very important job of stopping your peonies and other perennials just flopping all over the place. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and please keep telling all your friends about it and ask them to share it on Facebook, and of course we're on YouTube. We'll be back again soon when I'm going to be shaping some evergreens in pots, and we'll be catching up with jobs in the veg garden. Keep safe and see you then.